So if you're following, I suppose, a bit of pop culture news across the last few years, you notice that there's a lot more famous people who've been linked to disgraceful and evil acts, right? If you look across the 20th century in Ireland, even now continuing to this day, you're seeing the same thing. People giving their own testimony of the abuse they would have suffered in certain institutions, right? And just in schools in general. So we've had generations and generations of these animals, right? The predators. And now all of a sudden you have governments who are pushing to try and normalise these sort of evil acts with kids. So my question to you would be this. If you were in a position to try and dictate what the educational curriculum would be, and you are also friends with people who are highly compromised, if not yourself, how would you go about protecting yourself? You would go about protecting yourself by normalising the very acts that you know you're guilty of. Or you know people who feed you information and feed you your next moves that they're guilty of, right? You need not be compromised yourself in terms of being a predator of children anyway, to be used by predators of children, right? So it's on the one hand you have court cases going on with very, very well-known and well-connected people who reach into the upper echelons of at least American society, and in Europe we have case upon case upon case. Mark Dutroux case in Belgium, for an example. Jimmy Savile is another case. These people are friends with royalty in Europe. These people are friends with presidents. These people have compromising evidence against presidents in America. So up to the very, very, from what we can see anyway, or up to the very, very height of the pyramid that we're allowed to see at least, right? You have people who are highly, highly compromised because they're predators. And running alongside of that, you have a push from these lower level administrators of state policy to try and normalise the very behaviour that this status of people, right, are guilty of. So they're going hand in hand. It's nearly a game of chicken at the moment, right? So can we get people switched on to what's going on and start connecting dots around here? That these incidents are not isolated before these managerial types in government do all they can within their power to normalise the very acts that these other standard of people or status of people are guilty of, right? So it's fascinating times, and if you're not switched onto this, I don't know what to say to you, because you really need to be switched onto this, because I'm sure you have an opinion on the Catholic Church in Ireland and its own history. Never mind the politicians that are linked in with that, right? And the John Charles McQuaid, all these kinds of peoples, right? Gardaí as well along the way, right? And the media too along the way to a degree. So if you're not switched on to this, you better get switched on, because this thing is hitting a bottleneck. And something's got to give here. Either people submit to this and they accept that, yeah, look, maybe we normalise certain nonsense, right? Or maybe we need to really, really start looking at who are in these managerial positions in this country. Not only that, but who's creating the music that our children listen to? Who's creating the cartoons in the media? Who's writing the comics? Who's in the reality TV shows that our children and teenagers are watching? Hopefully yours aren't. But who's creating this stuff? These networks that is saturating society and the minds of almost all people with these distorted views of normalcy, these horrible inverted moralities that try and claim that kids are the same as adults and who are you to judge sort of thing. So this is a race. It's a race towards the finish line. And I would suggest that regardless of which people get to the finish line first, there's prices that are going to be paid one way or another. And you would just hope that the outcome would yield a beneficial result for the children of today and tomorrow. And it needs your attention. This needs your attention. There's no hiding from this. There is absolutely no hiding from this. Your children are going to be going to school. If they're not in school already, they're going to be soaked in this stuff. So what do you say about it?